I was working with a lot of families, mid-career, retirement age, into their retirement years. I thought as long as we're exceeding their goals, that they would be contented and happy with their lives. And I found out that my wealthiest client was my most stressed out client. And so they were still disconnected with this thing called money. Through the many years, I've gone to a lot of retreats, and usually after a day or two, somebody will then ask me, what do you do for a living? And when I tell them I'm a wealth manager, they say, well, how can you be so spiritual and be in a money business?
Yeah.
So I say to them, well, that tells me more about them than it does me. Because for me, money is just a neutral tool. It's like nuclear power. You can light up cities with it, or you can blow up people with it.
Are you frustrated watching your hard-earned money ride the knee-jerking Wall Street roller coaster? Are you looking to diversify into alternate investments and set them on autopilot to achieve financial freedom? It's time to learn the ways of the wealthy. It's time to think outside the stocks with your host, Madhvi Jain, an immigrant from India and ex-IT professional who will bring you industry experts to illustrate a passive and holistic financial approach to build not just passive income, but also your generational wealth. Madhvi is on a mission to change the financial trajectory of one family at a time and 1,000 more to go. Are you going to be part of this vision? And now, without further ado, here is the host of Think Outside the Stocks, Madhvi Jain.
Hey, welcome back to Think Outside the Stocks, another episode with your host Madhvi Jain. And today we have an interesting guest with us, Tim Jay Becker, and we're going to go into deep conversations with this. But before that, I'm just going to have a quick introduction. Most wealth managers talk about numbers. Well, Tim Jay Becker, he talks here as a values. He's on a mission to redefine not just as what we have, but who you become. From human archetypes to family genograms, he blends psychology and finance to create a legacy that actually feels fulfilling. So the question is, are you managing your money or your money is managing you? Dive into this episode and listen to what interesting conversations we're going to have. So Tim, welcome to Think Outside the Stocks.
Before we go ahead, just a little bit 2 cents from my lawyer that this is information and education purpose only. If you want to engage with any of our guests, including Shauna, please do your own due diligence. And I am not particularly a financial, legal, or tax advisor or investment advisor. So please seek your own team, and maybe Shauna would be one of that team members, right? And also we'll have some examples for education and information purpose only. So keep that in mind. These are point in time. These are not representative of any real information.
Javi, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed listening to your past podcast, and you cover some really interesting topics with some great people.
Yeah, and this conversation, is going to go deep into your heart if you're listening. This is really, tying back to your mind, body, and wealth. And we're going to have this, multifold conversation today. So I'm excited about that, Tim. I'm so honored to be here. By the way, let's lead with your name here. I typically talk about 3 interesting fun facts about my guests to introduce them. And I would like to introduce with your name, Tim J. Becker. That J portion of it, I'm very interested to know, and we will deep dive in a minute there. But J, actually, this name it's a given name, and has originations in India. So, would love to know that about that story. That's the first fun fact I would like to mention. The second fun fact that like I said, that he kind of blends that psychology and finance, right? So the human archetypes and family genograms, uh, how do they align with your wealth strategy and based on your personal values? That's the second interesting fun fact about him. And he's not your ordinary wealth manager. He actually, attends different global conferences, not just about wealth, but about that holistic spiritual approach too. And he integrates meditation and different nutrition and different human values also in this strategy. So going back to the second fun fact, he's not your typical fund wealth manager. He blends it. He attends a lot of global retreats focused on spirituality and values-based system, and he blends that, integrates the meditation, nutrition, and the spirituality into the wealth management. And the third fun fact is he actually has been in this game since 1981. So, more than 4 decades, he's been guiding families, institutions, and businesses through this peculiar financial journey. So I'm excited to talk more about that. Tim, again, what do I call you? Do I address you as Tim or do I address you as Jay?
Oh, you can, you're welcome to call me Jai. I would say 95% of people that address me these days refer to me as Jai.
And let's talk about that Jay name. So, very interested and curious to know the story behind that name.
Sure. Well, in early 2005, I was looking to take some time off, and I had planned to go to a retreat called Secrets to Enlightenment with Dr. Deepak Chopra in La Costa,
Mhm.
California, and later on that fall in late September. I also put on my calendar to go on a temple tour that he was leading. Actually, his partner, Roger Gabriel, was leading that trip. And I was really excited about that. So I put that on my calendar for the next year. That was a 2-week trip. But about a month went by and I started feeling, my ego started feeling like I was too important to leave my clients for 2 weeks. There was no way that they could get along without me for 2 weeks. And I canceled the temple tour. And so along though comes September 2nd of that same year. And I lost my 21-year-old daughter to an auto wreck.
I'm so
And
sorry.
so the temple tour came back onto my calendar. I just needed some time to process all of life. And I thought that would be a good way to get out of my environment and to process that. And so come January the next year, we were visiting the Tamil Nadu region of India. That's the southern part of India. We went to 5 cities. I had dinner one night with the Prince of Tanjore in his palace, greeted with a fire parade. But we went to a city also called Tiruvannamalai. It's the largest temple in South India. It's at the
Hmm.
base of Mount Arunachala. And on the other side of the mountain is a Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi ashram.
Hmm.
And I woke up one morning at 4 o'clock. I did a 2-hour meditation. And then I went down this long, wide path to the ashram for my breakfast. And along the way were these breakfast vending carts on one side of the path, like you'd see in New York City. And on the other side of these breakfast carts were these men in orange robes. So they're sadhus. They've renounced materialism. It might be a 46-year-old attorney with a wife and 6 kids, and he goes home one night and says,
Wow.
honey, you won't see me after tomorrow. And they try to live off the land. And so they go to the temples and ashrams in the early going for some assistance to live. So I went over there and I gave these guys money so they could get breakfast for the day. And then I went on down the path for my breakfast. And this one little guy comes running up behind me. He came up to about to my chin, bald headed, big smile. He put his hands in prayer and said, thank you. He says, I name you Jai. And I looked at him as with kind of a query. I said, Jai. I said, why Jai? He says, well, Jai in Hindu means victory. Today was my victory. And then he put this
Hmm.
holy ash on my forehead. And then
Wow.
we visited with each other for the next day and a half at the ashram. And so it brings back very meaningful times and great memories in my experience in India. And it's been Jai ever since then.
Wow, wow. Jay is victory. And that name that you got that day, significant change in your kind of life path as well. Uh, I was getting goosebumps just to listen to that story. Thank you for sharing with our audience. And
Of
with that
course.
little bit of story, I think you're gonna kind of getting a glimpse of what this conversation is going to be about. It's just not the wealth, but it's managing that wealth and the spirituality and all the focus that Jay has here to bring. So, Jay, my first question is going to be, when you talk about integrating the wealth management with life coaching and spirituality, right? Why do you believe that? What is the formula for life mastery for you, and what inspired you to create that unique blend of psychology and financial planning? And how do your clients really respond to it? I'm very curious to know.
Well, it's been a journey to develop this.
Hmm.
I formed my last firm back in 1997, which has also happened to be the same time that I learned my meditation techniques through Dr. Deepak Chopra. And so I launched my career as a multi-generational financial planning firm with just one other assistant. And through the years, I was using my client meetings as the laboratory, that feedback loop of information to understand what my clients needed to enhance their wealth journey that we were all on together. And so through the years, I wound up bringing on a CPA as an service offering on my team. Then I hired another CPA for my team to work with our clients. Then I hired an attorney, and I hired other wealth advisors. Then I hired a client service liaison. And then I even hired a mind, body, spirit coach who was an Ayurvedic practitioner right before I sold that company back then. But through the years, I had a long career, 39 years to be exact, through 4 years ago. I always thought that if I could just meet or exceed my clients' goals in their financial planning process, and I was working with a lot of families, mid-career, retirement age, into their retirement years. I thought as long as we're exceeding their goals, that they would be contented and happy with their lives. And I found out that my wealthiest client was my most stressed out client. And so
Wow.
they were still disconnected with this thing called money. Through the many years, I've gone to a lot of retreats, and usually after a day or two, somebody will then ask me, what do you do for a living? And when I tell them I'm a wealth manager, they say, well, how can you be so spiritual and be in a money business?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I say to them, well, that tells me more about them than it does me. Because for me, money is just a neutral tool. It's like nuclear power. You can light up cities with it, or you can blow up people with it. But it's the character that's revealed through the use of the tool that makes it appear good or bad, not the tool itself. So money is the same way. In the United States, we represent 4.2% of the world population. We've created 62% of the world's business valuation. And yet, PBS has done these documentaries as to retirement, America's dilemma. And so we don't have a good relationship with money. I even had several years ago a luncheon with 14 executives at a medical office. And I decided, and these folks made anywhere from $60,000 to $260,000 of income, and they were just one half of the family income. So this is
Right.
a pretty good economic swath of Americans. And during that luncheon, I heard somebody mention something negative about money, and I called timeout. I paused the luncheon, and it was the first time I'd ever done this. I'd never thought about doing this before. But I said, we're going to go through a little meditation technique. And I said, we're going to take 3 deep breaths. And then I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to say a word to you. And after I say it, I want you to just sit with it for a minute and see how you feel in your body, see where in your body you might have a sensation. And so we did this. I took them through the 3 deep breaths. And I said, and when I finish, keep your eyes closed. I'm going to ask you a question. And so as they got into their quiet state, I said the word money. And then I said, before you open your eyes, you either had a negative, positive, or neutral sensation about the word money. And I said, for those of you, I said, raise your hand that had a negative sensation about money. And Mojave, what would your guess be of 14 people making some really good income in America? how many do you think had a negative sensation out of 14?
Wow, I would say at least 70 to 80% would have that negative sensation. I don't think we have a good relationship with money. Most of Americans, we don't.
Yeah, all 14 had a negative sensation with money.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so
100%.
so if you're not feeling good about money, it's just like if you're not feeling good about your partner that you're living with, you're just in an accident looking for a place to happen. And that's the way we are in this country with money. We don't have a good relationship to it. And so one way to begin to right size money in our life, because, you know, for most Americans, money is not just the elephant in the room, it's the room itself.
Wow.
And so is what I've done is I've returned to the original meaning of the word wealth, which is weal. Back in 1250, weal meant prosperity, riches, health and well-being. And then somewhere in the 1400s, it got dumbed down to just currency. That's what wealth was currency, riches.
Interesting.
And so what we've done is we've returned our work back to the etymology of the word wealth. And so we have to be wealthy in all the major aspects of our lives. And so we define that as 8 aspects, and some of them are career, your environment,
Right.
your relationships, your health, your emotional intelligence, your spirituality. So we need to be wealthy in all of those areas, not just in currency. To me, a person is not wealthy if they have even hundreds of millions of dollars, but they have poor relationships and they have poor health.
Right.
And so we got to get ourselves back into balance. And the only way to do that is to provide a team of and services to a family to help them accomplish this balance, this homeostasis in their lives.
That's very, very interesting. Having that internal and an external relationship with money. First of all, identifying it, because I think, understanding the problem itself is the journey to that solution, right? So, from there, how do you take them to the next steps? Can you provide some insights into
Sure.
it?
So we start out with a human archetype assessment. And because what's important, I think, for everyone is to know thyself. To know thyself is to know all of reality. But there's a second piece to knowing all of reality, and that is the person that we are programmed to have been through age 7. And so whether you believe in reincarnation or not, it doesn't matter. We do know that we come from this DNA lineage of our family history. And then
Right.
we're in mom's womb for 9 months, taking on her chemistry and her emotions during that period. And then for the next 7 years, our minds are formed at a theta frequency level. That's just a sponge. We're receiving all the information we're getting from our environment. We can't say no to. We're just absorbing it, and we're accepting that as total truth. And that builds our perception of life. In
Right.
that window of time, we've become the garbage bin for everybody else's desires, everybody else's limitations, and all the experiences that we had in that environment for 7 years. And so that's how we're programmed. And if we don't change who we are after that programming, I say we live a life that has been fated to us, one that we really haven't had choices in.
Right.
But if we can wake up at some level, at some point, and usually at some point is a pain event. That's
Right.
usually when there's the first chance for people to make changes in their life, but it doesn't always mean they're going to make a change. We don't have to wait for that pain event to wake up to that inner feeling that we're something beyond what we were trained to be or told to be by other people in life.
Right.
And once we get that either pain event or that awakening, there's tools that allow us to wake up to that authentic self and to tap into that dimension of our higher self that we're here to live out and to be. Now, when we're making choices around that authentic self, now we're living a life of destiny, one that we've chosen, one that we've
Interesting.
fully participated in. And so we develop through a company called DNA Behavior. which is out
Mm-hmm.
of Atlanta. Hugh Massey is the brainchild of their systems that they work with, and they break things down based on the Carl Jung's work of life. And
Right.
so he breaks things down into 10 major personas that we represent. And then he drills down into the deep level of those those unique attributes within those personas that we are, those traits that are serving us, those traits and qualities and aspects that aren't serving us, those biases.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it a bias. It's when you have something that's not, when you have behavior patterns and they're not serving you, you don't
Mm-hmm.
usually people don't recognize they're the cause of these things that are happening to them that aren't serving them, because we're so much of that trait. Fire doesn't recognize itself to be hot. Water doesn't recognize itself to be wet. And so when
Right.
we have these traits, we're so much of that trait, we don't see that it's us that's creating that world. We're always blaming it on the outer world or some outer circumstance for this happening, when really we need to look inside to find the answers to that. The causal root is inside of us. And so one of the things that we wind up doing and working with our clients is we want to build those inner securities equal to or greater than their outer securities.
Mm-hmm. Love that. This whole conversation is actually very, very intriguing, Che, because just identifying that, the self, that your original identity, and we all have our belief systems, our shackles that are built up since the birth or prior to birth, as you indicate, it's marked on our DNA. I think removing all the shackles, I don't think, people, first of all, even recognize that they have those belief systems or the shackles, right? So to go
Right.
through some guide to actually understand this, yes, these do exist, and now what's the next step to it? I think that's beautiful. So that archetype that you're talking about is really knowing about that, true self within you first, before even this whole journey of the balance starts, right? Even including the wealth management. So love that. So once you identify that, and you also talk about the other aspect, the genomes, right? So how do you
Right.
integrate that?
So once we develop the human archetype assessment, and which, by the way, the placement of who we are in these 10 different archetypes has a 97% accuracy. This is a
Mm-hmm.
very valuable report and study that we do with people. And usually we're working with couples, but we also work with individuals. But when a couple comes in to my office and in the conference room and they start giving me feedback about how they felt about their particular assessment, they'll always say, or most often they'll say, well, 95% of this seem like me, but this other 5% over here, that doesn't seem like me at all. And usually the partner across the table from them has this big smile on their face, because they said that's exactly who you are. And this gets back to what I just mentioned about these biases, these blind spots. So once we identify who we are with our persona, we then go into a family genogram, and we're collecting information on the grandparents, the parents, siblings, our children, and we're doing that with both partners if we have two people we're working with. And we're collecting 7 or 8 very specific data points about each person to develop this genogram, because we're wanting to see if there's any patterns in the family. Once we identify who we are through the assessment and we develop this family genogram on one piece of paper, and we start to see the family patterns, we see our pattern within that family that developed
Right.
that to know thyself individual. I mean, we collect information on, families, each person's health, their education, their religious or spiritual background, their careers, their economy, what they produced, what their lifestyles were like. But we also then collect what their money scripts are that they're passing down among the generations. And this is super valuable information. And then I ask the people in front of me, what kind of money scripts have you adopted, and what kind of money scripts are you now handing down to your children?
Right.
And then I take them through the what I call the money meditation exercise, getting them to let me know how they feel about money.
Right.
And
Right.
taking that qualitative approach has been so valuable, because, this is just revealing what our fractals are in our family, because all of life is fractals. You see it in the cosmos, you see it in nature, and you see these repeating patterns in our behaviors through our lives, and all different aspects of who we are in our daily
Yeah.
living.
Yeah. A- And a lot of these behaviors are driven by our surroundings too, right? We have, so many news, of a media, social media influences, everybody's perception, those small reels, that's videos that are coming in, right? So, with all this fear being bombarded to us from different levels, how do you recommend that families can really make that confident and kind of empowered decisions in this world?
Well, it is a journey. People don't, flip the switch overnight and go from being irrational to irrational.
Right.
Uh, it's in our reptilian minds. We we came from the background of fight, flight, or freeze when we had danger coming into our environment. But back in the days of the hunting and gathering, those were usually seldom events, but very temporary in their length of time. And then we went back into our world of surviving and taking care of ourselves and experiencing the world. And so our hormones were always in this growth stage. But today, with what you're mentioning, TikTok, your work colleagues, uh, to income earners of the household, kids being raised by our governments, it creates a lot of chaos, stress, and so we're living that stress in every moment, not just seldom and infrequently and for short periods of time. We're doing this constantly throughout the day,
Right.
and so it's very difficult to reconcile that without having a connection with your source, with your God, with your consciousness, with your light, whatever label, name, or connection you have with your non-physical self. If you don't have that connection, this is a permanent challenge for you. I don't know how many people get over that. And so you first have to awaken to who you are beyond this
Hmm.
five senses, skin encapsulated bag of bones. That we have something that's non-physical that is far more infinite and greater than this physical body. When you're working from this operation of the world, you feel separate from everybody. You feel endangered through when you're looking at other people across the street or getting in the car or going to the store, your alert signals are out there. Is this person going to be friendly or harmful to me? What's the situation?
Hmm.
So we're in this constant 24/7 status, and the only way to get out of that is to feel connected with all of nature, everybody that's around us, and to change our way of visioning who we are and where we are in the world.
Right. Right. And it's interesting. And like me, you do talk about kind of the generational wealth, right? And your kind of that holistic approach goes much more beyond that generational wealth, right? It's based on your values, your fulfillment. So when you're actually creating this kind of a holistic plan, holistic structure with the client, how does it look like it, understanding their own archetypes, understanding, yourself first, and how it fits into the, information and the fear that the world is throwing towards you? That's one aspect of it. What does it look like when, client kind of crosses that step about knowing themselves and actually looking into the wealth chart, that fits to their generational wealth system?
Mm-hmm. So when you're going through and um, having someone awaken to their conscious choices and
Hmm.
awaken to who they are, they start to sense and start to have conversations with us and with themselves that, yeah, they maybe didn't want to be that attorney that mom and dad, you know, kind of forced
Right.
them to be. I've had lots of conversations with people through the years, not necessarily in my practice, just countless of time when people said, well, I did this because mom and dad said do that, or some uncle said to do this or that. And then that's what I became. So it's
Right.
just like I said, they've lived the garbage bin of everybody else's desires and limitations in life. But once they start to break out of that shell and start to sense that there's something greater than what they've been living, they start to set goals that are very different. I ask them in every aspect of their financial life and otherwise, what their philosophy is around these subject matters. What is their
Mm-hmm.
philosophy around putting their kids through college? Because sometimes a financial planner may say, well, you got to put X number of dollars into a 529 plan that's going to pay for kids 4 years of college and 2 years of graduate school. Well, you know what? That might be the formula for some people, but it may not be the formula for a lot of people.
Right.
There's people do this differently. Um, they may not pay for the college at all. They may say, we're going to really do our best job in getting this kid ready until he's 18 and then he's on his own. They may say, we'll pay for in-state 4 years of college, but if he wants to go beyond that, he's on his own. They may say,
Right.
we're willing to pay for out-of-state and private college and undergrad and grad school and for the years beyond that. So it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy around your life insurance, whether you're going to have long-term care insurance or not, whether you're going to have disability income insurance or not, a
Mm-hmm.
philosophy around whether you're going to have your kids inherit all your money or part of your money or none of your money. So it's once somebody becomes authentic with who they are, they can start to dive deep into these more philosophical things in life and not just follow what everybody else is, not just following what their work colleagues are doing or what their parents did generationally. And they can be their own unique person that they came here to be.
Right. Right. So it's really, keeping that end goal in mind, that where your value systems are coming in, what kind of person you want to be, and then taking it from there, whether it's investing, whether it's education, whether it's, retirement planning, or, the long-term planning. I think that's integrating, but keeping that kind of, core to the base, that, okay, this is what I want to become, so I kind of have that end goal in mind. That's beautiful. And, I wish, I had, learned about you earlier, and I had, chance to sit down with you and understand myself. So I think, sooner or later I will be, connecting with you to understand myself a little bit better. But I'm looking back on my children's, right? I mean, looking at my children, how can we start this process a little bit early in their life, for them to understand what really drives them and what really, calls them a certain, objective, certain career path, or certain, relationship with wealth or the money itself. How can, as parents, how can we help them to get started on this journey a little bit sooner?
Well, the first thing, the challenge is to be there with them,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And we're living in this TikTok world with all of these cell phone devices. And it's very untypical to see a young person at a table at dinner, perhaps at a restaurant, with a paper and crayons or with a book reading. They're usually having that digital device in front of them watching something. And, I think it's fine to do that, but I think there are to be limitations, hours of limitations around the use of that. We need to be in nature. We need to be connecting with people and relationships and writing and exercising. Because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to want to live your life like the Joneses,
Hmm.
and you're going to be keeping up with the Joneses. And so
Yeah.
what most people do is they live this world of have, do, be. So they see what they want to have, and then they figure out how to get that. So then that's what they're doing. And along the way, they're doing it without integrity, without morality. And then they wake up one day, and then that's who they are. That's who they've become. And really what we need to do is live a world that's be, do, have.
Mm-hmm.
Sensate who we are. Why are we here? What are our passions? What are our talents and skill sets? Realize that joy is our birthright. Joy is
Yeah.
and joy isn't a giddy thing. Joy isn't something that's equal to perhaps even pleasure. Joy is contentment, always being okay with what's happening in the outer world. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening is just information. And if you react to your outer environment is controlling you. But if you respond to your outer environment, now you
Beautiful.
control the outer environment.
Beautiful.
And so in the real world and in my wealth space, our response system is the financial plans that we develop with people.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a living, breathing document that is following the mission statement of the family and what their journey is going to look like. And it's flexible. But when things happen, when things change in the investment world marketplaces, it tells us how we are going to respond to those changes. When
Right.
things happen differently with our careers or family makeup or our deaths or inheritances and those type of things, that living, breathing document plan is the guidepost for making discerning choices with our next financial decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with our young people, it's just letting them play and be who they are. In the Indian culture, they have I think, a great way of raising their children. From 0 to age 7, they learn to never say no to
Mm-hmm.
their children, or don't, or you can't. And you can imagine that and that's very challenging to do, right? It's going to take a lot of extra creative thinking to figure out how to get your child to do what you want them to do and not do the other thing without saying no. But you can imagine then as they grow up into adults and they're looking at opportunities and challenges and they have these visions for what they want to do, they don't have that word no or you can't in front of them. They're
Mm-hmm.
fully embracing and have confidence in who they are and what they're capable of doing. So through age 7, they don't say no to their children. And from 7 to 13, when their children ask them questions, they get a question back to them.
Right.
They don't
Right.
give them the answer. And then there's another. And so through that feedback loop of question between the child and the parent, the child eventually gets the answer. And
Mm-hmm.
so by 13, they're an adult. You've raised your children. They're your brothers and sisters at that point. And so, that's a beautiful way to do it, but it requires that interaction, that valuable time spent, setting standards or consistency around meal plans or having dinners and those times to spend consistently every day, those routines with the family and setting those traditions, setting that connection
Right.
that and talking about the events of the day that our kids can learn from. They learn from us. In South America, there's a Kogi Indian tribe, indigenous
Mm-hmm.
there, and they identify who their next mama is going to be of the tribe. This is the wisdom keeper.
Right. Right.
And so when this woman is birthing this mama who is a male, the mama is raised in a cave for 9 years,
Wow.
much like the rishis of India used to do
Right.
6,000 years ago. They lived their whole lives in caves, but they traveled all through the universe with their spirit and their knowledge and their
Yep. Yep.
beingness,
They
right?
they
And
come
so
out
when
enlightened. Yep. Yep.
yeah, and so at age 9, these mamas come out of the cave and they can be the wisdom keeper of the village if need
Mm-hmm.
be at that point, with as long as there's not another wisdom keeper around. But that's how
Right.
they raise their kids. And so you can imagine we have a problem doing that for 9 days or 9 hours
Right.
here.
Right.
And so we've really gotten so distant from our source of who we are.
Mm.
And it becomes unrecognizable how we can get back there.
Right.
to make any kind of, we want different things happening in our life, but we don't want to become a different person in order to have that different reality. But in order to have a different reality, you have to become a different personality, which means you have to change your perspective of what's in front of you and become a different person, start doing different things.
Right. Right. Wow. No, it's interesting, it's an important cultural reminder too for us, and living in this life, right? In this age. So it's beautifully described how the culture actually, shapes up the future of the
Mm-hmm.
kids from the beginning. So thank you for sharing that. Getting them to, actually be wiser and be our friends and our, brothers and sisters, and that has become an important aspect of what you teach. So that's incredible to see that. So with that, I think the whole journey, and do want to talk about your book, which is the Awakened Investor. I think it kind of leads directly into the book, and all the things that you talk about, and kind of that holistic perspective about growing you first, growing your values, your systems, your fulfillment, what you really want to be, and then keeping that end goal in mind, and driving your journey, creating your the many kind of paths that leads to that journey, and also helping your kids along the way. I think it's beautifully covered in this great conversation. Would love to talk about your book, The Awakened Investor, at this point.
Sure. Well, it was just my observations of my career, which
Hmm.
began in 1981, February. I mean, back then we had 10% unemployment, 10% inflation.
Wow.
We had 21% money market yields. We had
Mm.
19.5% 30-year mortgage rates.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
so, this is had quite a journey through a lot of different economic cycles uh,
Yeah.
in the world. So I know what I was on the path of saying. So it was my observation of my career and what's happened in America with finances, and incorporating a lot of my client stories and situations through the years to help reveal those different time periods and family makeups. And so the first aspect of it was to help people understand what Bank Street, Insurance Street, and Wall Street is to them. Uh,
Right.
and I label them Financial Street just to kind of combine it all and keep it
Got
simple.
it.
But Financial Street knows the consumer's mind better than the consumer knows their own mind.
Mm.
They
Interesting.
know how to manipulate your amygdala, that fear gland. And they do it through storytelling. They do it through fear. They do it through greed. They do it through the languaging of what they use, because what they want to do is get consumers moving their money from one product and service to another product and service.
Right.
Because money in motion to Financial Street is profits to Financial Street. The
Hmm.
person that's selling those products and services, they are going to get theirs next. They don't mind if the consumer makes some money, but Financial Street and the guy selling that stuff is going to get theirs first, and you're third in line as the consumer. So
Right.
one, I help set the stage for the players that we're working with. It's a money landscape for most people when they're dealing with their finances. When they go into a JP Morgan or a Merrill Lynch or insurance company's office, they don't know what kind of financial services they're going to get.
Right.
It's very daunting, and it's very disconnected, and it's very a scary atmosphere to be in. So what I want them to then understand is the aspects of capitalism, because if you don't believe in capitalism, you're always going to be in fear of what you're doing with your money. You're always going to be not trusting what you're doing with your money. And most people have a bad idea about capitalism, but capitalism has raised the bootstraps of every human on this planet. We wouldn't be at the level of societies and health and wealth that we are now without capitalism. But I think what most people get wrong is they look at their experience with Financial Street, which are these middlemen to capitalism, and they've associated it with capitalism. We don't need Financial Street. They're middlemen. What the families need to operate, to tap into the wealth of capitalism, are fiduciaries, people who
Right.
place the family's interest ahead of theirs.
Right.
And so that was another reveal that I had in the book. And then the other is for people to wake up to who they are, to
Right.
have them become consciously aware, or provide a nudge that there's something more than this physical body, skin encapsulated bag of bones, five senses.
Right.
And to be able to just sit in silence with themselves, and to be still. That's really where the magic is. That's was probably the most impactful thing that I discovered in my life, and I did it through reading Dr. Chopra's book on quantum healing. And after that, it led me into my meditation practice through the years, and it's been quite an amazing journey. I know that, when the word meditation means what to you, Anhavi?
Well, for me, the meditation is a journey. It's a journey beyond my body. It's, looking into uh, just your place in this spiritual
Yeah.
world, and just
Yeah.
finding.
So the word means to become familiar with. Familiar with
Mm,
what? The light that we've been incarnated into this
mm,
body from. And when you're
exactly. Yeah.
sitting in silence, when you're empty in your mind, you are sitting with your higher self. And that
Yeah.
light is streaming into all 60 trillion of your body cells, bringing homeostasis and balance back into your cells. So it provides physical healing, and it provides just so many benefits to your life when you set a practice like that in place. There's an organization called Inner Science Research that is
Mm-hmm.
using the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and
Yep.
his
Yep.
meditation retreats. And, he has 2,500 to 3,000 people every retreat that he has, and they're usually for 7 or 8 days long. And Inner Science is doing studies on 63 different diseases of the body, and what the one technique of meditation does for those diseases, when it takes 63 different Western medicine techniques and drugs in order to
To do it.
solve that solution for the body.
Yep.
And they're
Yep.
about ready to, I'm not going to reveal the study and its numbers, but it's going to be really mind-blowing when studies come
Wow.
out here in
Wow.
the next couple of months.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. And you bring up a very interesting point here. I think, last few years we have moved, and it feels like a global movement in the search of the spirituality, in search of finding the true self. And there's, so many contributors to this movement, knowingly, unknowingly, just working towards that similar mission. And you mentioned a couple of, Deepak Chopra and Joe, and then there are just many of this kind of different efforts that are going towards getting to know yourself, the true yourself. And I'm, just sometimes just admire and wonder that this journey, has changed lives of millions and millions of people. And I'm just curious to see where this journey goes. But thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. So with that, I mean, such an interesting conversation, but unfortunately it has come to an end. I would love to know from you. I mean, we still have a rapid fire, but before we go to the rapid fire round, would love to know from you that, I always ask this interesting question to my guests that, how do you, Jay, think outside the stocks? I know you have a lot of strategies that are go inside the stocks market too, but just in a holistic perspective about in your own journey, in your own financial structure, what are these, the tidbits that you have implemented which create that holistic strategy for you for, to pass your generational wealth or just to manage what you have, so to grow, preserve, protect, and pass your generational wealth. So could you throw some light on it before we, start the rapid fire round?
Sure, we've already mentioned it, but the first is to
Yeah.
know thyself, but then to surround you with a team that's going to work in your best interest. But because I have a team, and there's no single member on my team, including me, that's indispensable in life. There's
Hmm.
thousands of really talented and brilliant people, professional people, attorneys, CPAs, real estate advisors, wealth advisors, planners, body nutrition coach, consciousness coaches, lifestyle advisors, spiritual advisors. Where the magic is when you have all of these people working as a team together every day, and they're all working for the efforts of one family. They're
Right.
all philosophically aligned.
Right.
That's where the magic takes place for the consumer in America in managing not just their wealth affairs, but their entire life's affairs. Because,
Beautiful.
my idea is you master your mind and you master all of these other aspects of our lives.
Right. Right. Love that. Love that. And how do they get in touch with you if if they want to connect with you? I'm gonna post a link of your book as well, and a few other stuff in the episode. But what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Terrific. Well, we have a website, luminouswealth.com.
Hmm.
And actually, you can go on there and take our human archetype assessment for this call. I'm letting people go onto our site. It's a 46-question forced answer quiz, and you'll get a report right away when you're through taking the quiz, along with a couple of videos that you'll be able to revisit over time.
Love it. Love it.
And then you can reach me, Tim, at luminouswealth.com at 561-919-4808. And then my book is The Awakened Investor on Amazon in all different formats.
Definitely, definitely. So the archetype test, do you recommend the per individual to do it individually or as a couple? How do
Well,
they?
you'll want to do it individually. And what I would suggest is you find a 15-minute block of time where you can
Right.
have quiet surroundings and you can have contemplative thought. And there's no wrong answers to this quiz. So
Right.
don't get stressed
Just
out over
knowing yourself.
the question. Just let it free flow and just answer them as they come.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And with that, we are come to the rapid fire round. Are you ready for it? It's just, some quick questions and some, quick answers to those questions. Just
Sure.
some fun questions, which is
Okay.
not problem related. All right. So my first question is going to be, you talk about a lot of retreats. What has been your biggest life-changing retreat or meditation or that moment that you really, had that aha moment and, how long ago was that and where was that?
It was in 1998. I went to Wollongong, Australia with Dr. Deepak Chopra. There was about 250 of us. It was on a coastal town. And it was an 8-day retreat. We meditated for 2 hours in the morning. We had lectures throughout the day, amazing vegetarian food. We then lectured 2 hours in the afternoon. I had fantastic entertainment and yoga, and then we had recapitulation at night. And when I got at the end of those 8 days, and he would say to us, now don't go home and evangelize because there's nothing to save anybody from. I felt floaty in my body. I was literally floating in my mind.
Wow.
I felt like I was on drugs. And we have a pharmacy of drugs within our body that we just have to learn how to tap into those receptor sites in order to enjoy and experience what we can do in our body. It's far more powerful than any drug that's on the outside of the planet.
Wow, love that. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that experience with us. My next question is going to be, what is the, when you have, helped so many, they have changed their lives. Somebody must have come back and shared with you what their experience has been and what has touched you the most. I'm sure there are many, many of this kind of experience that got shared with you. But, what is that real experience that touched you and like gave you goosebumps?
Well, having a career as long as I've had, I've not only had them give me the feedback, I've watched them take place on my watch in front of me.
Wow.
And I really don't take credit for it. I'm really here just to serve people. I'm
Love
a
that.
vessel. I'm a vessel for their interest. And
Mm-hmm.
so to the extent that I can hold that space for them I feel humbled by it. But I just recently, what comes to mind is someone back in December contacted me through email. They said they went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. They said, you need to read this book called The Awakened Investor. She read the book. She said it actually changed the way that I look at my life. And she says, I know I wanted Luminous Wealth to work with me. And She's a client now and one of the most amazing, gifted people I've ever met. And what a journey she had, because she is just like wealthy in all aspects of her life, but she didn't have beginnings like that in her life. And so we all have the ability with the tools that we have, the mind that we have, to be whatever we want to be.
Love that, love that. Beautiful. And my last question is going to be, if you could leave the world with one footprint, one, sentence, what would you live that, and what would you want the world to remember you?
So what's always been ingrained in me is to be the best I can be at whatever I'm doing.
Right.
Notice I said to be the best that I can be, not to be the best at it. Eventually, somebody is always going to overtake you being the best of anything. But the only thing that I can control is me. And so I can control me being the best me that I can be at whatever I'm doing. And to do that, you have to be present. Because
Right.
that's where eternity is in the present moment.
Wow, love that. Love that message. I think we all need that reminder, every day of our life. So thanks for sharing that. And with that,
Sure.
this journey, this conversation had come to end. But I think, for many, this is just a beginning. I hope that so. But I'm so honored and so grateful to have you in my studio and to have this completely out of the box conversation on, the body, mind, and wealth journey, and just kind of putting things in a perspective and tying our values and spiritualism all around it. So I'm truly, truly grateful. Thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful conversation.
I call that feeling outside of thinking.
Yes, yes. I love that feeling
Thank
outside
you,
the thinking. We
Mahadi.
think a lot. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
really, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the Think Outside the Stocks podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe. Madhvi is on a mission to change the financial trajectory of one family at a time, with 1,000 more to go. We hope you'll be a part of this vision. Please join our growing community, and to get your journey started, visit thinkoutsidethestocks.com to download your free guide on active income with passive real estate investments. If you learned something new, please share it with one person today. And if you have 60 seconds, please leave us an Apple review to help us reach more people like you. Tune in for the next episode.